the life expectancy of the Libyan people is 75 years of age, which many of you in this audience, the way you live your life, you may never see 75. This is the man they want to kill. When he came to power, the literacy rate in Libya was 20%. Now 83% of the Libyan people are educated. Everybody has free medical care and medicine. And guess what? They're saying in America that our brother Barack may lose because it's jobs, 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 and he's not creating jobs. But in Libya, all the Libyans who want to work have a job. And not only do they have a job, tens of thousands of non-Libyans were in Libya working when the trouble started. From China, from the Philippines, from other African nations. Yes, he provided employment for tens of thousands of others other than his own people. Well, let's look at his oil wealth. Did you know that every Libyan benefits in the shared profits from the sale of sweet crude oil? Every Libyan gets a stipend from oil. How many of you have gotten anything from Shell, from Amoco, from Conoco, from any of the conglomerate robbers, thieves, cutthroats of the poor? How many of you have gotten anything from your government that equals what Brother Gaddafi gives to his own people? Well, let's look at his governing style. They call him a dictator. Now, I'm a fortunate brother because after the Million Man March, when he saw nearly 2 million black men show up in Washington, Brother Akbar can attest to this, he treated Farrakhan as a head of state. And when I went to Libya, he would have African presidents and he would invite me in to sit in the discourse with 10, 15, 20 African presidents. And let me tell you what he said to them in private. He said, you cannot run your country on the style of American democracy. He said, you are a president for 4 years, and if they don't like the way you're guiding your people, they upset your government, and all the good things that you did in 4 years or 8 years can be wiped out in another 8 when they get a new president. He said, you are revolutionaries. And if you're a revolutionaries, you let others be the president and you guide the revolution. I heard him say that to President Rollins and others. And naturally, I'm listening and I'm learning. Because people ask me, Farrakhan, you should run for some Senate office or some political office. I said, man, I don't want that crap. You pardon me. Pardon me. I don't ever want to be in a condition or position where I have to compromise principle and truth for political progress. To hell with that. You all be the politician, but I'm going to be the prophetic voice that will always tell you what God wants, and to hell with what man wants. You either going to do the will of God or you get the hell out of the way. We have to make examples of politicians. He was neither a dictator or a president. I flew on airplanes with the president of Libya. Never with Muammar Gaddafi. He's the revolutionary leader. Some of the silly people say, he's been there 41 years. He's been there too long. Stupid. And some of you say you believe in Christ. Some of you say you believe in Moses. Some of you say you believe in Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Well, check this out. Moses lived 120 years. Wasn't nobody trying to overthrow him because he'd been there too long. He was guiding a people that was subjected to the mind of Pharaoh. And you cannot release people from that kind of cruel bondage in 8 years or 10 years or 20 years or 40 years. You've got to be able to guide the revolution to its conclusion. Now, some of you know that Jesus didn't live a long time, but what he set down in his 36 years of life is guiding millions and millions of Christians today. It's not the time, it's the quality of that leadership and your guidance. He set up a third universal theory. What does that mean? It's really a participatory democracy where the power is really in the hands of the people. He has popular committees deciding the fate and the future of Libya, and he, as the supreme guide, just sends down guidance, that's all, and lets the people make their future. Now, these arrogant Westerners want to feel that the world wants their brand of democracy. Do you think that they are rising in the Arab world because they want this style of government? Talk to me. Do you think you have democracy? All of you who believe that you are really in a real democracy, raise your hands. I didn't see one. Not even government people raise their hands. Because you know damn well that this is not a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. This is a government of the rich, for the rich, by the rich, and to hell with the legitimate needs, rights, and interests of the common man. Tell me I'm a liar. So why you want Gaddafi dead? He's the only Arab that has ever apologized for the Arab role in the transatlantic slave trade. Did you hear what I just said? Now, people think that I'm hard on Jews for their role in the transatlantic slave trade, which I am. But I have never, ever relinquished my point that Arabs were involved. Africans were involved. Europeans were involved in the horror of the transatlantic slave trade. So I was a guest of Muammar Gaddafi in Libya. And I mentioned that the Arabs were involved in the slave trade. One of his staff people ran out of the hall and ran back to Brother Gaddafi to tell him what Farrakhan had said. And guess what Brother Leader said as I heard? He said, well, at least you know he's not a politician. See, if I was trying to curry favor to get Libyan money, I would say the thing that I thought they would like to hear. But I have never been a whore, and can't nobody buy me. Allah is sufficient. And for any of you stupid reporters who are the enemies of the American people to say that Farrakhan supports Gaddafi because Gaddafi loaned millions of dollars. Let me tell you something. What Gaddafi loaned the nation is like somebody spitting on fertile ground expecting a tree to grow. And for you to malign my character, that you think that I speak for him because I need money, I say to hell with all the money that he and everybody else has. I am not supported by that. I'm supported by Allah, and the love of the people for me, they support me. And they have given me more than Gaddafi has ever promised to give me. Look, Gaddafi, now this is the real hatred for this man. He set $70 billion in an African development bank in the city of Sirte, is where the bank was going to be. Listen to me now. So that Africa would never have to go to the international IMF, or the World Bank to borrow money at high interest rates. But being a Muslim, we do not believe in usury. So he had $70 billion set aside for African development at no interest. When you see a leader doing that for his own people and for Africa, when they are sucking the blood of every nation, including your blood, let me tell you about your blood. You think the Federal Reserve Bank is government owned? The Federal Reserve Bank is a group of international bankers who in 1913, near the Christmas holiday, set up the Federal Reserve Bank and legislation, where these international bankers now print U.S. money. Now, listen to me good now. When they were set up in 1913, America's debt was a little over $1 billion. Not even 100 years later, America is in debt over $14 trillion. And when you add the promise of Social Security, Medicaid, and entitlements, it goes up to $63 or $4 trillion. When the Congress began to audit the Federal Reserve, which they fought against, they found out that the Federal Reserve had loaned over $16 trillion to European and American banks without the government of the United States knowing anything about it. I don't know what they loaned it. If they loaned it in dollars, they're printing money that has nothing behind it, and everywhere that dollar goes with nothing behind it, not even the gross domestic product of the U.S. government. It depletes the value of the dollar that you got in your pocket. When I lived in Harlem and in New York, pardon me, I bought a Cadillac from my brother Dick Gidron. And it was one of these sport, Cadillacs, nice thing, an Eldorado. And I paid $12,000 for it in the 70s. Try that today. You can hardly get a scooter for $10,000 or $12,000. Look at the value of the dollar and how it has deteriorated over the last 30 years. And look at the debt of America to the Federal Reserve. And right now, the payment on the debt is almost equal to what the government brings in taxation. So they're sucking your blood. And guess what? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said soon you would see men lighting their cigars with $1,000 bills that have no more value. What will you do when the dollar falls? What will you do when they start cutting back on your unemployment benefits? What will you do when they cut out food stamps and the things that we have depended upon? How will you react? Will you come out in the street like you see in Great Britain when they're closing down schools and setting up more policemen in New York, in Chicago, teachers out of job, police increasing in job? What do they expect? The police have weapons now like the soldiers have in Iraq and Afghanistan. Look at the way they're dressed when they come out to quell a riot or disturbance. They look just like the soldiers overseas. They have armor-piercing bullets now. They have stun bombs that they just throw in. Come on in on you. They're ready. So when you decide to break out in the street and act the fool, they've been trained by Blackwater. In all the major cities in America, the police are trained by mercenaries, and you have a group that will serve and protect, but you've got another group that is just there to kill. So Gaddafi, as I come to a conclusion, has championed the idea of building railroads and infrastructure in Africa. He set up a satellite, paid $400 million, and the other African nations put up $100 million. He put a satellite up that's an African satellite. Whenever we would call to Africa, we would have to go by Europe to get to Africa. That gave Europe $500 million a year of your money when you want to call Africa. That satellite, when it went up, we talked direct to Africa, cutting out Europe. Listen to me now. Europe lost $500 million last year when our satellite went up. Gaddafi is dangerous to Western hegemony. He's dangerous to imperialists. He's dangerous to monopolists. He's dangerous to the Western oligarchy that wants to suck the resources of the world to a small group of international bankers and thieves. Let me tell you what else he did. When the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was among us, he saw that Africa produced tremendous iron ore. The iron ore would be shipped out of Africa to Europe. Europe would take the iron ore, turn it into steel, send back products to Africa at exorbitant prices. Now Muammar Gaddafi says, Africa, you gotta stop sending your raw materials to Europe. Take your raw materials and make the product that you desire, then put your product on the world market and keep the profit for Africa. This is a dangerous man, and he's so dangerous that they feel he must be destroyed. So now, the killing of his son, his grandchildren, the constant bombing, what's that all about? You notice how they keep talking about rape, that the Libyan soldiers were raping Libyan people. You should go to Libya. The peace that's in the streets of Libya, you don't find robbery, thievery, people beating you up. You have more peace in the streets of Libya than you have in the projects with what little you have. But this charge of rape, I got a few more minutes. I have to stop, and I will be respectful of the police and what they have asked. I have to stop at 4 o'clock. That's 20 more minutes from now, unless they give me 5 or 10 more minutes, but I ain't asking. I'll just stop. But I need to wrap this up. Did you know that according to NPR, a 2004 study found that 71% of the women said they were sexually assaulted or raped while serving in the United States Armed Forces? A 1995 study of female veterans of the Gulf and earlier wars found that 90% had been sexually harassed, and these are American soldiers sexually harassing and raping women, American women who are soldiers. Now you tell me something. If an American soldier will rape an American soldier female, when they become the occupying army in Iraq, in Afghanistan, what are they doing to Muslim women? What are they doing to Muslim men? So much so, sodomizing men in Abu Ghraib prison, raping Iraqi women dressed like our Muslim sisters, but raping them and then killing their families. Listen, listen, listen. You don't join the armed forces to be nation builders. You join the armed forces and they train you to kill. You're killers. And when you go into a foreign country, they have to make you see that people as the enemy so that you will delight in killing them. So, why did Army Major Nidal Malik Hassan, a Muslim psychiatrist at Fort Hood, go on a shooting spree after being assigned to debrief soldiers who came back from the theater of war, and they're telling him of the things that they did that were against their conscience now, and a Muslim psychiatrist is hearing them talking about the rape of Muslim women, the killing and sodomizing of families. He couldn't take it anymore, so he just shot up the soldiers. They want you to think that he's a terrorist, but he was debriefing terrorists, and unfortunately, it took his balance. So now, in closing, Resolution 1973 did not call for regime change. It did not call for the assassination of a leader. It did not call for bombings, killing, and maiming of men, women, and children. It did not call for the robbery of the nation's economy and subsistence. And it did not call for the destruction of the infrastructure of Libya. They set up puppet governments, and they legitimized factions or groups of rebels that would serve the objectives of the attacking nations under the noble cause of protecting the people. All this while bombing and wasting the land and lives of the people that America claims to be so concerned about. I want to ask you a question. As I said in the press conference 5 or 6 weeks ago at the United Nations Hotel, I said, suppose he survives. What will you do then? Now he's surviving, right? They're going to have to deal with brother. Now look at this. If he has to rebuild his own infrastructure with what money he got left, that means he will have no money to further the cause of African productivity. And if Gaddafi wins, who will bring NATO before the International Criminal Court and make them pay for the destruction that they have caused in Libya? Hillary Clinton. Oh, the inspector said I could go on a few more minutes. Thank you, Inspector. I appreciate it. I'm not going to take too much more time. Thank you. Listen, are y'all all right? Look, now that they've lost in killing him, they're sending representatives to African governments, petitioning them, listen, to close down Libyan embassies in their country, throw out legitimate representation of Libya, and put into those places some of the rebels who do not have the support of the Libyan people. Now look, Africa, I got to talk to you. Because some of you are strong, and some of you are very weak. I thank President Zuma of South Africa for your strong stand. I thank President Mugabe and others, and I can't close without saying something about him. Look, family, the African governments must not accept the false promise of America that if you put the legitimate ambassadors of the legitimate government of Libya out, that they'll give you this, they'll give you that. See, this man promises only to deceive. Ask us about that. We are the deceived. After we built the country, he promised us 40 acres and a mule. We never got the 40 acres, We never got the mule. He promised us civil rights and then moved to take it away. He promised us voting rights, and when we put a strong black man in power, they use skill and deception to destroy strong black political leadership. What have they promised you that they delivered on their promise? So if you trust their empty promises, you deserve the hell that you get, because they are liars and deceivers. As the Holy Quran says, when the matter is decided, the devil will say, Allah promised you a promise of truth, and I promised you, then failed you. And I had no authority over you except that I called you and you obeyed me. So blame me not, but blame yourselves. I deny your associating me with Allah before. When Allah promises, he fulfills his promise. When the enemy promises, he promises only to deceive. So Africa, tell Hillary Clinton and all her representatives that come to you, tell them go to hell and drive them out of Africa. They think you're the same lackey, the same flunky, the same Uncle Tom that some of your predecessors were. Show them that you found testicular fortitude and you didn't find it in the bargain basement at Walmart's. Tell them not today. Now, what has Robert Mugabe done that he's called by Peter King the other day one of the worst leaders in the world? What did he do? See, brothers and sisters, you've got to stop being guided by the controlled media that is owned by Zionist forces that want to make you pawns in the struggle of of Israel and Zionism. You always have to have another source of information other than Fox, other than CNN. Did you know that they're rising up in Israel now? 200,000-300,000 Israelis marching. You didn't hear that much on the news, did you? See, these are Zionists protecting the image of Israel. You should be as strong in protecting the image of yourself and your people and your real true leadership. Now listen, when I was flying on world tours and President Mugabe was then the darling of the Commonwealth nations, my plane couldn't even land in Zimbabwe. I think we tried on 2 occasions. We landed on the 3rd one. But when we landed on the 3rd one, Mugabe was no longer darling, sweetheart. He was the enemy now. It's funny how we can find each other when we're in trouble. As long as the white man puts his arms around you and wants to love you up, you can't walk with Farrakhan. He's persona non grata. That's why you come around me like Nicodemus came around Jesus. Don't go through the front door. Meet him round the back in the corner in the dark. And let's sit down and talk to Farrakhan. And let's go to his house, but don't let nobody know we're visiting him. Let's take counsel with him, but for God's sake, don't tell anybody he's counseling us. That's the way y'all treat me, because you're afraid of your position with your slave master. Well, in a few days, I'm going to tell you to hell with you and your slave master. If you can't meet me around the front door like a man and like a woman, stay the hell away from me. It was Joshua Nkomo and Robert Mugabe who led the revolutionaries against the racist government of Ian Smith, which at that time Zimbabwe was called Rhodesia. But when it became clear that Nkomo and Mugabe were about to take the capital city of Harare, a plot was concocted, and both Mugabe and Nkomo were called to the Lancaster House in England and told that England and America would buy back the land from the white farmers who owned millions of hectares of the best land, the most productive land, but that land would be returned to the indigenous people. They even wanted Mugabe to buy the land from white folk that stole the land. I mean, can you imagine the nerve of these people? See, and if you don't have any testicles, damn. I just say straight, you ain't got no balls. You're not fit to stand in front of our people. A ballless person speaking in a high register. Hello, is everything gonna be all right? You might as well go on and proclaim that you've gone over to the other side and we give you some lace drawers. But damn it, if you're gonna be a man, then stand up like a man for your people, or get the hell out of the way, or we will remove you. So guess what? They called brother to Lancaster House in England, and look at the proposition. Jimmy Carter was involved in it. He said, all right, we'll give money and you'll buy back the land from the white farmers. They started off pretty good, and we got a little of the land back, but then America reneged and England reneged. But by that time, see, you know, listen, you got to understand Satan. You got to see how he works, baby. He tell you, I'm going to do something, right? And while he's telling you he's doing something, he's romancing you. And he's bringing you in. See, this is what they did to Brother Gaddafi.
Go ahead.
They turned off all of the sanctions, but now they're coming in the country now to romance brother. They came, I mean, some of them like Richard Pearl, the Prince of Darkness, and his group going into Libya, going to clean up the image of Muammar Gaddafi. Let me tell you what they said to me in a private conversation. I had dinner at the home of some Jewish rabbis in Chicago. One of them was the former dean of rabbis, and Irv Kupcinet, the great reporter from the newspaper, and others were there. Some of my family was there. And we had a great dinner together, you know. And I tell you how you Negroes, you know, when white folk invite you into their homes and lay it out for you, you really feel special. I know. See, Sam, you don't change much, you know. And when you feel special, you know, you want to keep that special feeling.
Keep the special feeling.
And after the dinner was just about over, one of the rabbis reached in his pocket and pulled out a piece of paper. That was the end of the special dinner? He said, Farrakhan, this is love, but it's going to be tough love. And listen to the terms that they gave me for bridging the gap between me and the nation and the Jewish people. Number one, Farrakhan, we're going to have to watch you for a protracted period of time. And if during that period of watch you say and do the things that show that you want to be our friend, then we'll reconsider. Second, you all put out that book, Secret Relationship Between Blacks and Jews. It's a great calumny against the Jewish people. So what we want you to do is stand up and denounce that book. Third, and said, now, you're a very intelligent man. You know how they love to butter you. You're not like the others. You're so different. And you suck that up. I'm different. And you end up being the same old flunky that your predecessors were. Man, then they said, if you want to be our friend, anybody that has been seen as an enemy of the Jewish people were never written of well in history. Think about that one. But if you do, listen to these words, what we ask of you, we will clean up your image. Now they're telling me we dirtied it. But if you do what we want, we'll clean up your image. They said, now, we can go upstairs and have coffee and you can give us your answers. I said, I could give it to you right now. I said, but I'll wait till we go up and have coffee. So during the coffee hour, I said, he opened his talk by saying, you have your truth, we have our truth. I said, sir, the Torah says, justice stands afar off and equity cannot enter because truth has fallen in the streets. I said, it's not your truth or my truth. It is that we're going to have to agree on the truth in order for the wounds to be healed. Now, you may have your perception of the truth, and I have mine, and they may differ, but in dialogue, that's how you reconcile differences to come to the truth. I said, now, you say you need to watch me for a long period of time. I said, your people have done more evil to mine than we have ever done to you. So maybe we need to watch you for a protracted period of time before we allow you to even consider yourself our friend. I said, now this book, Secret Relationship Between Blacks and Jews, I'll denounce it in the morning. Listen, if it is a lie, because I do not wish my name to be attached to falsehood. I said, but everyone we quoted was one of your rabbis and your scholars and your historians. So I'll denounce it tomorrow if you get up before me and say that everyone that I quoted was a liar. And lastly, I want to be your friend. That's why I'm here. But if being your friend means I have to compromise truth, then yours is a friendship I don't need, and yours is a friendship I don't want. Now listen, wait, I ain't finished. I ain't finished. I'm not finished. I said, now you can come against me with all you got and get your influence over the government to join you. I said, but in the end, as long as I stand on truth and stand with God, I'm going to be the winner, living or dead. Now, that ended the conversation, and it's been like war ever since. That's why every time my name is mentioned, this is the man that called Judaism a gutter religion. This is the man that said Hitler was great. I never made no movie on Hitler. You can't turn on your television without somebody glorifying the Third Reich, and most of it is being glorified by the same people who hate it. So we don't need you to write my history. You won't even be alive when my history is told. Hell, you do your writing now, baby. But when my history is written, go ahead, down in the generations, you won't even be here to smell the heat from the pen. Now, a man that talks like me is either crazy or he knows God. And you can choose whatever one you want. I don't sound like a madman, except to the weak and cowardly among you. I have God with me. And what I speak from my mouth, he answers. When I told you at the UN, listen, that nature, the God of nature was going to come after you. Using wind and rain and hurricane, tornado, drought, famine, it's all coming. I said, China, you should have vetoed this, you in Russia. But since you didn't, you joined in the pain of your brothers. The next day, 1,800,000 Chinese in a flood. You check it out. I told them, soon you will see your governments in ruin. And some of you on the back of pickup trucks in chains, driving through the streets, and the people throwing stones and raw garbage at you. I hardly got the words out of my mouth. Britain in trouble. Damn. France in trouble. Berlusconi in Italy in trouble. Now look at your president locked in a fight. You think it's just the red states and the blue states? This is a civil war between crackers and those who legitimately want you to have a better quality of life. I warned President Obama. He's my brother, and I love my brother, and I'm proud of my brother. But my brother was a better man campaigning than he is right now. It's not altogether his fault. See, when you surround yourself with criminals and the criminals start poisoning you, you can become an enemy to your own self and the aspirations of your people. He's not an economist, but he surrounded himself with Timothy Geithner, Goldman Sachs man. He took advice from Larry Summers, Goldman Sachs man. He took advice from Paul Volcker, Federal Reserve man. See, these are the robber barons that surrounded our brother. He's not an economist. So what they did, they told him that we need a second stimulus. They don't even talk about the first stimulus that they got Bush to sign on to, that nobody know where the hell the money went. Now, Mr. Obama, now, Brother Obama, if you don't sign this, we're all going to be in serious trouble. We'll have a worse depression than we had in the 30s. So he signs a law, $800 billion come out. How much of it did you get? How much of it did Main Street get? But Wall Street got it. See, now they're beating him up because of what they influenced him to do. He came in, a war was raging in Iraq and in Afghanistan. He chose to make Afghanistan his war. I said to him, Brother President, find a way to get out of there as quickly as you can with honor. Because it's a war you can't win. Now he's sending drones into Pakistan, into Yemen, into Somalia. See? That's a rogue government. Underneath all the good that's on the surface, robbers and thieves in suits and ties. And our brother is the front man. Like they made Colin Powell the front man at the United Nations, telling the United Nations that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction. Do you remember that? They skewed the intelligence. So imagine you the president and you get a briefing book every morning. You have to be able to trust the people that are informing you of world affairs. Sorry, Brother Barack, you trust in Satan. And he's never going to give you the right information. You need to come sit with your brother. I will not lie to you. But of course, that's not going to happen. So in my conclusion, Robert Mugabe was told by the people that fought with him and for him, we fought for land, and we don't have the land. Robert Mugabe, being a principled man and a man who recognized, yes, I have not fulfilled my pledge, then he started taking back land from the white landowners, and that's when the media swung into action and made him an evil, no good man. And I'm saying, when you work for your people and you will not compromise, you become an evil man to Satan and their forces. And so I conclude with some counsel for Benghazi. Now, Muammar Gaddafi and you in Benghazi know that the Holy Prophet Muhammad said that every 100 years God would raise up a mujaddid, somebody to reform the faith. You know that the faith is in need of reform. I'm a Muslim, but I know that this will not make it in the future unless it is reformed. Listen to me good now. You cannot mistreat women in the name of the prophet and think that you're not going to pay a price for that. There's no way in hell or in heaven that you can deprive women of rights and education and equal membership in the society and expect that you represent Prophet Muhammad ibn Abdullah. You're a liar and a deceiver. When I was in Mecca, women and men prayed together in the masjid, in Al-Haram. Yes. But when I go in other places, women off somewhere, men off somewhere else, and women treated like they're not equal citizens of Islam. Men in the mosque air-conditioned, women making prostration with their face in the mud. You tell me. That's why the young Muslims, when they come to America, they don't want your Islam. They start partying. But when they look at the African American Muslims, they see people sincere and committed. We do not disrespect our women, even though they may wear the hijab or burqa or whatnot. It's not to diminish them. But look, sisters, you can't dress like a whore and be respected as a lady. Who is styling your clothes? You can, as an African woman, you can style yourself in a decent way. You don't have to let the freaks of France and America keep your crotch in a man's face and your breasts hanging out. Said, I didn't come here to get milk. Don't you know you have to protect men from themselves? Men are naturally aggressive. And when you disrobe and show us what you got, how in the hell we gonna think sane? We don't think revolutionary thoughts and you half naked. Only revolution we want is the turning in the bed. That's not what we need. Cover yourself like the decent African woman that you are and make men respect and honor you. So as I have to go now, I am so happy to be back in Harlem, to see such a beautiful group of people. I want us to let Brother Muammar Gaddafi know that we're proud of him and that we stand with him and we stand with the Libyan Jamahiriya. I want to send a shout out to Comandante Fidel Castro and wish him a happy birth anniversary, to Harry Belafonte, and to all the strong brothers and sisters. But to Benghazi, I say this: Muammar Gaddafi is trying to be a reformer. Whether you like the things that he's doing or not, he's a Muslim. And all the times that I have gone recently, he has led the prayers. I don't know that you know this, but he took us all to Mali, to Timbuktu, where African Muslim civilization was. There used to be a river that ran through Timbuktu, and the wicked dried the river up so your cars can get stuck in Timbuktu in sand. He brought all of us that visited Libya to Timbuktu, and we lived in the sand, and we ate. I tell you, it was rough. But he promised to put the river back, and that river now is back in Timbuktu. Commercial activity. This is our Gaddafi. This is our brother. This is the man that wants to see the United States of Africa as a reality in the 21st century. This is a man that wants one African army and one African language that all Africa would agree would be the national language of Africa. He wants to unite the tribes into a great nation of African people. And he's encouraging us to produce our own goods and put them on the open market. This is why they must destroy him to keep Africa in a subservient position. You remember when we were in slavery and any of us rebelled, they would make an example of us to the other slaves to put fear in the other slaves that they would be submissive and subservient. They're bombing Libya because Libya is the strongest African nation with the strongest African leader. So if they can make an example of Libya, then the other nations will cow down to Western ideas and thoughts. But I say to Africa, this is your moment in the sun. When you said you would not bring Gaddafi before the International Criminal Court, that he could go anywhere in Africa and you would not arrest him and turn him over to his enemy and your enemy, that's step one. But step two must be that the African Union goes before the UN and say, either you stop the bombing or we stop trade. Either you stop the bombing or we won't give you our raw material. But Africa, you will suffer. To hell with that. We've been suffering. But if you stand up, Africa, and let Europe know to hell with you and your so-called power, you will find that your unity will put you in the driver's seat. Try what Farrakhan is saying. And watch them back down. Benghazi, you're a Muslim. This is Ramadan. Fighting in the sacred month is forbidden. You want advantage. Here's how you can get it. If you believe that you are right and Gaddafi is wrong, put down the guns, stop the killing, and campaign, and let Libya decide if they want you as their government or Muammar Gaddafi to continue. And if the Libyan people vote for you, Gaddafi will bow down to the will of the Libyan people. But if the Libyan people vote for him, then there's an invitation to you, Benghazi, to come and sit down and iron out your grievances in the spirit of Islamic brotherhood and dialogue, and tell NATO, going back to Europe. Tell the rest of them, going back to America. Get the special ops forces out of your country and let a Libyan problem be solved by the Libyan people. And if you do that, the world will applaud you. The world will rejoice that no more killing is going on, and let the Libyan people speak for who they desire to be their legitimate leader. Thank all of you for listening. Thank you, December 12th and Viola Plummer. Thank all of you, my brothers and sisters. May Allah bless you all as I greet you in peace. Assalamu alaikum. Akbar.